out here. Our next speaker, this woman right here is what I would like to call real estate on steroids. She owns properties in multiple states. She's very humble, though. She's not going to come out and just tell you this. I'm saying it for her. She loves helping people. She's down to earth. She has a very elegant and expensive taste. I was down there in 2016 down in D.C., and, I had the privilege of being able to marry her daughter and my best friend, one of my best brothers, and seeing them. And she just went out to this high-class restaurant. We were just all sitting there having a good time. And I was sitting there at the end of the table. I was like, boy, this bill right here about $1,000. But, she loves the finer things in life, and she's not afraid to let you know that neither. And she's worked to be able to attain that lifestyle. So Zackiya Zafri Matthews brings over 35 years of experience in real estate, spanning brokerage, investments, and legal support. She began her career as a licensed salesperson in Virginia, later obtaining her brokerage license and opening her own brokerage in Maryland and in the District of Columbia. She now also holds a brokerage license in Florida. Zackiya's investments journey begins in the 1990s, during a time when mortgage interest rates soared up to 18%. Undeterred, she purchased her first property, a townhouse in the prestigious community of Reston, Virginia. From there, she built an impressive and diverse real estate portfolio, acquiring a condominium in Reston's Marketown Center, a townhome in Maryland, a classic Baltimore row house, a historic 1909 Victorian in Washington, D.C., as well as various properties in markets outside her region, including Wisconsin and California, and Kentucky as well. And her early acquisitions laid the foundation for leveraging assets, negotiating effectively with financial institutions, building generational wealth, and creating the flexibility for time freedom and lifestyle enjoyment. Zackiya's experience is further enriched by her legal background as a paralegal and her work with the Alaska State Court System, where she supported a superior court judge in rural Alaska. With a unique blend of legal insight, strategic investing acumen, and hands-on experience in dynamic markets, Zackiya speaks with authority and passion about real estate investment, portfolio growth, and long-term financial strategies. Once again, everybody, unmute those phones. Let's give a warm wisdom and wealth welcome to our mother, real estate investor, paralegal, our friend, Zackiya Zafri Matthews.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am so humbled to be here, enjoying all the speakers. Demetria, I really enjoyed your talk. Thank you so much for your knowledge. It was fantastic. Looking forward to hopefully meeting you one day. Yes. I tell you, when Joseph asked me to come and speak, I was like, oh my goodness, so hesitant. I'm not a speaker, but I'm a talker. I learned how to talk a long time ago when I used to play alone because the rest of my siblings really didn't want to play with me. So I always had an imaginary friend that I would talk to, and I more or less would build from that. But I want to take you back on my journey in real estate.
Excuse me, mother. It sounded a little staticky or choppy. I don't know if that's from me or from everybody else. Did everyone hear her clearly, or is it kind of staticky?
Staticky.
Yeah, mother, really? You got a little static on your end, mother.
Okay, Sade, can you fix that for me? Perhaps we should just jump on the phone then. Okay. We're gonna go and switch over to the telephone. I'm not sure what's going on. And I really don't know how to fix it. Did you guys hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna go over to the telephone and use the phone to speak with you. Would that be okay?
That's just fine. Whatever makes you comfortable.
Okay, one moment. Thanks for that. Sorry about that. When we tested it, everything appeared to be fine. You have to go to the chat.
Leave there and then come back.
Okay, how do I leave here? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave and then come into the phone. You wanna go ahead and take that to leave?
Yes.
You can also try to disconnect and reconnect.
Just
Okay, I'm back on. Can everyone hear okay?
Nice and clear now. You can nice and clear.
Okay, great. I gotta see where I left off at. Did I tell Demetria I enjoyed her talk? Did
Yes.
we hear that?
yes.
Yeah, you're right there.
Okay, all right. So I enjoyed her talk. And like I was saying, I'm not much of a speaker, but I'm a talker and a sharer. And it all started when I was a kid and siblings didn't want to play with me, so I had to play alone, had an imaginary playmate. And with that imaginary playmate, I had a cash register and had play money and always wanted to play business. Didn't care much for the dolls, but the business part I enjoyed. Let's go back to my journey in 1983. This is the beginning of my thought pattern for my financial journey. It began in a small village of Alaska above the Arctic slope. The name of the village was called Barrow, Alaska. Since then, they've changed their name back to their Inupiat name. And about 3,500 people. I worked for the court system there. I worked for the Superior Court judge. And my husband was flying airplanes to the different villages, bringing people in town so that they could pick up their supplies and so forth. Well, with that experience, we made quite a bit of money. And we weren't quite sure what we wanted to do with the money, but we knew one thing, we didn't want to pay taxes because the type of incomes that we had, we knew that we would wind up paying quite a bit of taxes, not really having much of an investment. So we took a vacation and we went down to what they call the lower 48. That's the rest of the states. And through my grandmother and my mom, they told us about this town called Reston, Virginia. They said, "Oh, it's a new development. You've got to go there. You guys got to go check it out. It's really nice. It's similar to some of the other places in Maryland that was recently built and developed." So we took the trip there and we went to Reston, Virginia. We drove around and we saw so many beautiful, beautiful homes, opportunities. The community was brand spanking new, just really new. And I was like, wow, this is great. So we went and went to a loan officer to apply for a loan. And they basically told us that the interest rate on the property that we had an eye on would be 18%. So we're like, 18%? Oh, okay. All right. Where do we sign? We didn't care. So we went to the realtor. At that time, I was not a real estate agent. So we went to the realtor and she wrote it up and we obtained the property. Beautiful townhouse, cute townhouse, great investment. Didn't pay much for it, but man, did that investment pay off. The town started to grow. People from all over the world were coming there. Businesses were coming there. Right off of the main road was a road that big corporations and companies wanted to be there on so that they could be seen by Washington, D.C. They wanted to be near D.C., but not in D.C. So it was just a great, fantastic place, and it still is. So we got the townhouse, and then we took another vacation. And we said, let's go back to Reston. So we went back to Reston, and they were building what they call the marketplace. The marketplace is a town center with the movie theater, the restaurants, all the great stores and shops. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. We've got to get a condo. So he said, okay, we'll get a condo. So we bought a really nice condo. It was on the third floor, 356. I even remember the number. So we bought the condo and it was outstanding condo. So we said, okay, what are we going to do with it? So I was able to locate a family, a couple and their kids from Canada. And they had a business doing oxygen
I forgot what you call it, but it's like they pump oxygen into people. I can't think of the name right now, but anyway, they were in the oxygen business and they were making quite a bit of money going around taking oxygen to people. So they rented from us, even though they weren't there all the time. They paid us in advance because they needed a place. They didn't want to stay in a hotel. So whenever they would come, they knew that that was secure for them. So it was kind of like Airbnb before Airbnb was really around and before I even thought about any type of Airbnb. So that really worked out great. We supplied the whole furnishings, the towels, everything, the dishes, the plates, all the way down to the fork, the salt and pepper, and so forth. So everything was fantastic. So we went on and we moved on from that. And from that, we went over to Maryland. These are at different times. We went over to Maryland and we bought a property from my parents, a rancher in Odenton. My parents were going through a divorce, and I had really made it really it was really hard trying to get the property from my parents because they didn't really want to sell it to me for whatever reason, I don't know. But anyway, none of my other siblings could buy it, so we did have a chance to buy it, and we bought it at a really good price. And later, that value just escalated. We refinanced that property probably about 2 or 3 times. We refinanced the property, invest in both of those properties several times. So each time we were able to refinance and build up our equity and build up our cash flow, what we needed to purchase. So we went on and we went to another area of Maryland where we bought town center, excuse me, a townhouse. And there at the townhouse, my sister owned one, my brother owned one. So we were able to buy one. Bought that for like about $35,000. I recently had it appraised and the appraisal was around 185. So, you can see from there it was always very good equity. Moving on from there, Baltimore, as now keep in mind by now I'm a realtor. So I had customers I was taking out and showing them properties. So this one particular property was a beautiful, beautiful row house. And it was on the line of Baltimore City and Baltimore County. Area called Catonsville was right across the street. You could throw a rock. And Catonsville is really well known for their university, University of Maryland. Baltimore County is there rather. And so we purchased a row house for 60,000. I recently had it appraised and was able to get some cash out. And that appraisal was 170. And had I had put a air conditioning system in there, I could have gotten 180. The appraiser actually told us that we could have gotten 180, but so what? Moving on from there, purchased another property through a friend. His brother had died and he lived in California, and his brother had properties left and he didn't want to come to DC because he said he'd have to come with his gun because the neighborhood was so rough. And keep in mind, this is the fine, beautiful neighborhood called LaDroit Park, which is right by Howard University. It used to really be a very bad area in terms of crime and so forth. Um, it was the particular property, even though the street wasn't run down, but that particular property had run down because no one had been living there. He had not fixed it up. And of course, he was gone. So his brother was like, yeah, you can get it. So I got it from his brother for about $16,000. And his brother had a loan that he had taken out. So my husband was able to go in that 401k and take out some money to pay off his loan, which really worked out fine. And that property was recently sold in the year of 22,000 for a pretty decent piece of land. We don't amount of money. I don't know who's listening, so we'll just say a pretty good piece of money. Okay. And then moving on, we bought. I probably skipped some times. I'm not going to get into everything, but we did buy in Kentucky, and we're going to get into that. I bought an old commercial building and also bought a house. And the house and the commercial building was bought through a sheriff's sale. So those are some of the things that we're going to talk about as well, because my focus was on buy right, hold tight. So we're really going to get to that. So anyway, the two properties were bought through a sheriff's sale, and they were bought for hardly nothing. I think the house was bought for maybe 11,000, if I'm correct, and the warehouse was bought in a bid, fighting a bid. This other guy was so vigilant, but we won the bid. And I think it might have been about $50,000 that we paid for that. But anyway, since that time, the property no longer exists. It's torn down, and we have land. But I didn't lose out because it's a commercial lot, and we have dreams to do some extraordinary things with that. So that'll work out just great. But the whole focus here is not so much about me and what what I've done or what my husband and I have done together. It's about just being a regular person and using your mind, using your logic, and knowing that if you're making money, you still have to keep going. You can't just say, "Okay, I've got enough here," because you never know when you're going to need that cash, or you never know when you might need that property. So you definitely want to keep going. So you want to buy and you want to hold, because if you hold, you're going to benefit. You're going to benefit from that hold because of the fact that that hold builds equity. So you're building equity all along. You're building equity. And do you have bumps? Yes, of course you have bumps. Everybody has bumps. Um, you've got to keep your credit up. I had a period where my credit kind of like had fluctuated, and it wasn't where I really needed my credit to be. And I had to depend upon pulling cash out of my property to be able to live, to be able to move around freely so that I wouldn't be subjected to uh, wanting to go to a government agency for help. But that property caused me to have financial freedom. And that's what's so important. What's so important is financial freedom. No one wants to be tied down. My husband had 401ks and stocks and all that. That was because he was working for an airline, and that was what they offered him, what they gave him. So he had benefits. But me, I was in real estate working as a broker. I didn't have a 401k. I didn't have any of that. But I believe wholeheartedly in real estate. I believe that it's the safest investment. Only if you buy right and you understand your location. Every last one of those properties that we're talking about now, those properties were all in the right location. Like I said, Reston was in an up and coming area with the very wealthy buying into this community. It's a very prosperous community even to this day. Then the house in Maryland, in Bowie, Maryland. I might not even have mentioned that, but there's a house in Bowie, Maryland. That's a growing Afro-American community. It's what they call Millionaires Row, because that's where the Black millionaires live. And going, even though the house was only 300 some $1,000s, look, it grows. The real estate grows. And then the property in Odington, that went where I was able to refinance it many a times. The property in Severn, the property in Baltimore, the property in DC, all those properties allowed us to have the freedom that we needed. So what are we thinking about when we say buy right? Buy right is about location. If you do anything, do this. Always make sure that you're looking at your location. Sure, you get emotional and you get excited because here's this beautiful home or this beautiful townhouse, a beautiful condo, whatever it may be. That's all cool, but you have to choose the right location, because if you don't choose the right location, you could lose everything that you have, because that market could just go completely flat and you can't move around, you can't do anything. And I did have a situation with one of my properties that did go flat. It went flat because it became a drug neighborhood. It became a drug neighborhood. And becoming a drug neighborhood, it was a mile from Fort Meade, Maryland. The military said, we don't want any of our people moving into that neighborhood. It's a drug neighborhood. I'm like, oh my gosh, what kind of people am I going to get now? I don't have the military people anymore. So what I did was I put on my thinking cap and I contracted with the government. I was able to contract with the government. And after I contracted with the government, I said, this is the best way. I've got guaranteed money coming in. Look at here, look at here. Check coming in the mail. The money came in from mental health. I had a mental health patient that had a caseworker, and that mental health patient stayed in my home there for 7 or 8 years. Wow, I thought he would never leave. He was a great person. I didn't really want him to leave, but he moved on. But I got a check every month, and that property is designated for mental health. So I still have mental health people coming there. Then I had another property with Section 8. So I had income coming in from that. And after that, we pretty much realized that we want to keep properties with government income or income coming from an agency, not so much a government, but coming from an agency where we're going to see the money at all times. If anything falls apart, it's going to fall apart because things in our country are going to fall apart. And I don't have any control over that. So whatever happens then, it happens. I don't worry about that. I deal with, what we're dealing with right now. But one thing I just want you all to remember as well in talking to you is you don't want to keep these properties in your name. You definitely want to make sure that you put your properties in a trust because we live in a society where people are always ready to sue you. They'll sue you for the least little thing. So you always want to make sure that you put your property in a trust. And putting your property in a trust, make sure you know what you're doing. Don't just look at some of the stuff that comes in off of the news or the TV or internet where people get on and they speak and they talk. Know exactly what you're doing when you're building a trust because it could come back to haunt you if it's not set up properly. So having a trust is a really good idea, especially when you're owning real estate. Even if you just have one property, it's a great thing. It's a good thing. So just moving on, I just want you to know that you don't have to be big time in this, but if you want to be big time, like Mr. Gary from yesterday, that's fantastic. He's done a phenomenal job. So there's many ways to do it. But I just wanted to talk to regular people, people that say, how can I do this? What can I do? What can I do? Miss Akia, she's got all these properties, but gee, she's much older. She's been doing it for a long time. I'm in my 20s and I'm wondering where am I going to get this kind of money from to begin to start owning properties. Look around, folks. The money's there and it's going to be there. It's not going anywhere. Check your divorce records. Okay? A lot of oftentimes people are divorcing, unfortunately, they just want to get out. So that's an opportunity. Go check when people pass. We all are not going to live forever, so people die every day. So you can go check those records or some of the death announcements, and it will give you members of the family or someone to get a hold of. You can go to the sheriff's sale. Like I went to the sheriff's sale, and I bought 2 properties from the sheriff's sale. So that's another way. The other way is uh, going to um, going to basically just look around, drive the neighborhoods. If you're in an area and you say, "Gee, I want property here," or "I think I might want property in this city," drive around. I was fortunate because my husband, being a pilot, we had airline benefits. Rather, we have airline benefits, so I could fly here and there. But for those of you that might not have that available, you still can do well in the town that you live in. Drive around, look for a raggedy house. It's not always the prettiest house on the block. Usually, you don't even want to touch that because it's so expensive. Usually, not all the time. But I usually look for properties that are not so attractive but they're in a good location. And if you don't have much money, the whole idea is to go in and just do the basic work, just the basic work, enough to be able to turn it over so that you can turn it over so that you can get someone in there to start making money. Once you start making money, you can save your money or whatever you want to do with the money, but you don't want to spend it because you want to build back on that. So the things that you really wanted, but you didn't have the money to get, now you have an opportunity to get a nice roof or to put a brand new refrigerator in the kitchen and dishwasher. You'll have that money. So you start building the place up and making it look really great. And those are some of the things that you might want to do. For example, the townhouse that I have in Maryland, the row house, the basement is going to be turned into a apartment. So it's a bedroom there. We already have the hookup for the washer and dryer and the plumbing. We just need to have the guy to go in. It's not going to cost that much, but that's additional income for me. And what's upstairs? Upstairs is a 2 bedroom. It's a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, but that's okay. It works perfectly. So you have to go through the city to get a variance, But that's not a big deal. It's just a matter of being smart, putting the application in. Even when they advertise in the neighborhood, nobody's really going to come to the meeting. They're not going to want to come. People just don't have time. So you really don't have anything to worry about. It's just so many things that we can do even when we don't have money. I have not always had money. There had been some times where we didn't always have cash available. Even though we had cash in the real estate, we were poor in having the actual cash in our hands. So we had to do many things to be able to generate cash. So we had to think of ways to generate cash. How are we going to generate cash? Well, the little cash that you have to look at that cash and say, what can I do with what I have? There are many ways. So that's what I say. Go to those sales. Don't forget, go to those sales and start checking out those sales. You'll find a jewel in those sales, and they're not that difficult to get. Just kind of going over my notes. I didn't want to leave anything out. Okay. So we got the idea of buy right, hold tight. What does it mean to buy right, hold tight? And we talked about that. We talked about making a profit and being able to have a cash flow and just keeping ourselves in contact with our mind to say, even though I'm seeing this cash build up, I still want to keep it built up. I still want to have equity because on a rainy day, I may need that equity. Keeping my credit up so that I'm able to pull that money out. In order to get any type of loan, you have to have somewhat of a decent credit. It doesn't have to be top notch, but there are factors, not just your credit score, but um, other factors like what properties do you have? How much do you owe on them? How much profit do you actually have, or how much appreciation do you have in these properties? And when I say appreciation, most of you, I'm sure, have heard the terms, and I'm not going to try to be real technical with you all, but it's just what you value once you subtract the mortgage off and your other expenses. That becomes your profit and so forth. Is it hard? Sometimes it can be hard. Is there a challenge? Sometimes there can be a challenge. I've already shared with you some of the challenges. Is it easy? Sometimes it can be easy. But basically you write your own journey. Nobody writes your journey but you. I read books constantly. I was just at the bookstore, I think it was 4 days ago. I purchased 3 books. They were on investing. So a lot of the times you get a book and the information is not great, but you go through it and you pick out something. I don't care if it's 1 or 2 things. You pick out something that applies to you that you say, oh, I can use this. Your light bulb goes on in your head and you say, oh, yeah, this is fantastic. Yes, 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 I got this. And you go to another book and so forth and so on. You go on the internet. I spend a lot of time on the internet. And you'd be surprised some of the things that you can come across on the internet. That's how I decided I wanted to jump into this assistant living thing because I saw where if I take some of my properties and turn them into assistant living, I can do really well. And then doing well, I can help others. Currently, I'm scheduled in November, no, excuse me, September to take the managerial class in order to get my certification to open up assistant living home. So I have to take 80 hours. I'm required to take 80 hours. So I'm splitting that up. I'm doing that in September and November. And I won't actually physically be working in the house, but I'll be hiring someone that has the credentials. But I had to have those credentials to understand how to do it, what to expect, and so forth and so on, because I've never done this. And what does that bring me? One person, the average in Maryland is $7,000. And but I decided I don't want $7,000. I want to do it for less. I'll probably have mine at 5. That way I'll make myself more accessible to other people and they'd be more willing to knock on my door and see my place and be interested in coming to my home. This assistant living thing is just growing out of proportion. So many people are aging out and they need a home. They need a great place to be where they feel safe, where they feel secure. I said, well, that's me. I'll make you safe. I'll make you great. All those things. I love making sure that I'm taking care of people. The whole time I've been in real estate, I've only evicted 2 tenants all these years. I think it's been about 35 years. I've only evicted 2 tenants, and they just really needed to be evicted. But why not, Z? Well, the reason why is because I make people feel like they're family, and they are. They're my family because without them, I can't do the things that I want to do. So they are my family. It might not be my biological family, but they're family. They call me up and they tell me what's going on in their life. I say, look, what date are you paying your rent? I need to know. Don't lie to me. Give me the exact date. Okay, they tell me. Okay, well, I'm expecting that. And even if they wanted to really mess me over, I think that oftentimes they feel guilty in doing it because I'm so kind, I'm so nice. I don't hound them. I make sure that the house is what it should be. I'm not a slum landlord. I make sure that they have everything in that house before they walk in the door, that everything is working properly. And during the course of the time that they're there, I make sure that if they call me, I'm available. My maintenance man is available. My husband, we all know what's going on. We're all on the same page. Go check it out. And we get there so quick and we resolve whatever issues that need to be resolved, it'll make their head swim. They don't have time to say, well, I'm holding the rent. No, you're not because it's done. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to talk about. But hopefully pretty soon, I won't really be dealing directly with tenants. I'll be dealing more with people that are on a contract. The contract will be with their families. Um, the income that they were able to make in life, some of that income will be coming over to me, but they'll be well taken care of. So that's pretty much where I'm at in closing. And a disclosure is that my husband has been an instrument in helping me to build these properties. We build them together. So I have not done all of this by myself. I do have a partner. So that has really helped.